El. Yasharala. Yep, pretty much. The title of this evening's lesson is Colossians 2:16 Breakdown. Colossians 2:16 Breakdown. Guess what? We can go to the book of Colossians. Chapter 2. Let's get verse 16.
Colossians chapter 2, verse 16.
Yep.
For by him were all things created.
2:16.
My bad. I'm in one. Colossians 2, verse 16. Let no man therefore judge you.
Hold on. Say it like you mean it.
Let no man therefore judge you.
Don't let nobody judge you. That's what people say. Only God could judge me. It's in the Bible.
They be quoting Tupac. They be quoting Tupac.
The book of Tupac Shakur. Although Tupac said a lot of pretty good and interesting things, I liked a lot of his music. Tupac doesn't have a book in the Bible. Only God can judge me. Read it one more time.
Let no man therefore judge you.
Let no man therefore judge you. So I didn't even write this down. First question is, can somebody even judge us? Are we supposed to be judging? Let's get that in Scripture. You know what I want? I want the one in the Old Testament, the law.
Righteous judgment.
Yep. What that's it. Now I got it.
You got it?
Yeah. Give me Deuteronomy chapter 1, verse 17.
Deuteronomy chapter 1, verse 17. Ye shall not respect persons in judgment.
In what?
You shall not respect persons in judgment.
So we are to judge. Right? So they say, can't nobody judge me. Only God could judge me. Only God. Nah. Read it one more time. Let's go back to Colossians.
Ye shall not respect persons.
Colossians chapter 2.
Colossians chapter 2, verse 16.
Uh-huh.
Let no man therefore judge you.
Let no man therefore judge you. But it's going to get specific. All right? Judge you in what?
In meat.
In meat. Oh, boy. They go to town on that one. You can't judge me. See, he did away with the law. The law was a schoolmaster. We couldn't keep the law. It's okay to eat pork. Back then, they didn't know how to clean it and cook it. They couldn't cook it as hot as we could cook it. We cook it thorough. It's okay to eat it, long as you say a grace. Go ahead.
Or in drink.
Or in drink. Go ahead.
Or in respect of any holy day.
Or in respect of an holy day. You can't tell me every day the Sabbath. Every day is a holy day. I want to keep my Sabbath on Sunday. It's okay. I'm still honoring the Sabbath. Any of y'all heard that? You ain't heard it, you will. Trust me. Go ahead.
Or of the new moon.
Or even of the new moons. Read.
or of the Sabbath days.
Or of the Sabbath days. It says, don't let any man judge you concerning those things. So what is this talking about? Let's go to book of course, we're going to be coming back there. Romans chapter 7. Romans chapter 7, and let's get verse 1.
Romans chapter 7, verse 1.
Uh-huh.
Know ye not, brethren.
So Bible says, know ye not, brethren? Do you know this? Go ahead.
For I speak to them that know the law.
He said, I speak to them that know the law. See, that's the thing. You got to understand who it is that you're speaking to. All right? Because some of our people do not know the law. But you'll read a whole lot in the New Testament, especially when they speak of things, they're speaking to those that know the law. Because if you pick up the book, the expectation is for you to read the law first. So if you pick up the book and you just start reading the New Testament and you're reading all of this stuff and you don't know what the heck it's talking about, you haven't met the prerequisite. You know how you go to college and they got prerequisites? They're expecting for you to take certain courses in order for you to be suitable to take these courses. And if you haven't taken this and this course, then you're not even qualified to take this course, because you need to know what those courses have to offer first. All right, to give you that foundation. Make sense? All right. So he says, I speak to those who know the law. When we speaking tonight, the thing that you got to understand, I'm going to make sure I'm speaking not only to those that know the law, but most high willing, I'm going to break it down so those that don't know the law can get an understanding if they have ears to hear. All right. Go from there. Go to the book of Deuteronomy. I don't need it. Deuteronomy chapter 14. And I want verses 1 through 3. Then I want to drop down to verse 21.
Deuteronomy 14, verse 1.
Yep.
Ye are the children of the Lord your God.
Go ahead.
Ye shall not cut yourselves, nor make any baldness between your eyes for the dead.
So these were some laws. Go ahead.
For thou art an holy people.
So he's going to make sure that we understand. He said, for you are a holy people. You're special. You're not like everyone else. All right, go ahead.
Unto the Lord thy God.
Uh-huh.
And the Lord hath chosen thee to be a peculiar people unto himself.
Said the Most High has specifically handpicked us to be a chosen people unto him. Go ahead.
Above all the nations that are upon the face.
And we're supposed to be better than all the other nations upon the face of what?
Upon the earth.
Upon the earth. We're better than everybody. Don't say that. Why can't we all just be? They don't think we equal. They think they better than us. Right? He said it's okay. He said, I made you better than them. Go ahead. Verse 3.
Thou shalt not eat any abominable thing.
Now that's what he said. He said, thou shalt not eat any abominable thing. Don't eat any abominable thing. Drop down to verse 21.
Ye shall not eat of anything that dieth of itself.
So this is one particular aspect of it. He said one thing, you should not eat of anything that dieth of itself. Go ahead.
Thou shalt give it unto the stranger that is in thy gates.
So he said, give it to the other nations. Give it to the white man. Give it to the Asian man. They like that Tang Wang, Chang dog, and you know what I'm saying? I know I got my people that's amongst the nations. I got my people that's amongst Moab and Ammon. And I pray to the Most High that they be saved, man, and they change their ways. But those of the other nations that are not our people, they do some pretty peculiar things. And they like things that we don't necessarily normally on a normal day, we don't like and we don't do. Me personally, I ain't with, moving squid, and I ain't with all of that. That ain't my cup of tea. I personally don't like the savory smell of dog. You know, that's not enticing to me. But, you know, these other nations, they like some of that. Go ahead.
Give it to the stranger that is in thy gates, that he may eat it.
Go ahead.
Or thou mayest sell it unto an alien.
He said you could sell it to an alien, to somebody outside of your nation. Go ahead.
For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God.
He said, but you holy. I don't want you doing that. So anything you eat, you got to make sure you kill it. Make sure it's healthy. Make sure it's good. All right. You can't be eating anything abominable or vile or profane. All right. Go ahead.
Thou shalt not seeth a kid in his mother's milk.
He said, and you shouldn't seethe a kid in its own mother's milk. So go from there. Go to Leviticus chapter 11. These are just some of the things right here. All right. We were given a dietary law. Leviticus chapter 11. And let's get verse 45 through 47.
Leviticus 11 and 45. For I am the Lord that bringeth you up out of the land of Egypt.
Go ahead.
To be your God. Ye shall therefore be holy, for I am holy.
He said, I brought you up out of the land of Egypt to be your God. He said, I got a special thing with you. He said, I brought you up out of Egypt for a specific reason. I needed you to get yourself right because I want to be with you. I want to have that special relationship. He said, and I want to be your God. Go ahead.
This is the law of the beast and of the fowl and of every living creature that moveth in the waters and of every creature that creepeth upon the earth.
He said, this is the law of all the beasts and so on and so forth. He said, look, mind you, I got laws pertaining to every type of animal. It's crazy because people talk about, I can eat whatever kind of meat. It don't matter. God don't judge you on that. He gave us detail, which I'm not going to go all into on your own time. Going to Leviticus 11, he gets very specific on what he allows us or he actually created for us to eat that's good for us. And it's no different like if you buy a vehicle. You can't put peanut butter and jelly in your gas tank, can you? Huh? Why not? Huh? Can you brush your teeth with glue? Huh? Can you? I'm saying. Some glue? Why not? Why not? Huh? Would you put some spritzers up under your arm for deodorant? If the spritzer had acid in it? Why not? Huh? But these are things that you can actually apply. Like, it ain't hard to put some good old what's that that well-known glue, the white one? Elmer's. Put a good old little slab of Elmer's toothpaste glue on your toothbrush. Huh? It ain't made for that. Who determined? Because if you look at a glance, I mean, I can make glue look like toothpaste, right? Right? Look good, right? So I might give you a piece of pork that look like a piece of beef. It's all right, right? You see the parallel? You know, people want to convince you, and what our people don't understand is you're being deceived. You know, you want to believe something that has been put out there purposely to entice you to believe it, to fall into sin. There's a reason he said, look, and it's even such as, you know, when you get a brand new vehicle, there's certain gas and certain oil and so on and so forth you got to put in there. You can't get a set of brakes for a 1992 Toyota Camry if you got a 2012 Suburban. It's not going to work. Make sense? There are things that are specifically made, you know, so that you can either fix or you know, for the functionality of that particular vehicle. So if the Heavenly Father is the creator of our bodies, our vehicles, why wouldn't we trust the manufacturer to let us know exactly what's good and what's not good for our bodies? It's simple. But our people, we want to be hard-headed. And we want to do everything to spite the Most High. So go ahead and read.
Verse 47.
Yeah.
To make a difference between the unclean and the clean. And between the beast that may be eaten and the beast that may not be eaten. It's
because there's a number, which I'm not going to go into all of them. There's a number of different scriptures people that try to take alone and say, see, he said we can eat anything that our soul desires. Nah, he made it clear. He said, look, there are beasts that you can eat, and then there are beasts that you cannot eat. Simple. Why is it that we want to change that? All right, go from there. Go to the book of 1 Maccabees, chapter 1. 1 Mac, chapter 1. And let's get verse 44. We're going to read 44 through 50, and then we'll jump down to 62.
1 Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 44. For the king had sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the city of Judea, that they should follow the strange laws of the land.
So during this time, during the time of the Greeks, the particular king that was ruling at that time, which was Antiochus, thank you. I want to go back to Antiochus. Antiochus, all right? He sent a letter, by his messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judea, and he sent a message that said that they should follow the strange laws of the land, laws that didn't have anything to do with our laws. Go ahead.
And forbid burnt offerings.
They forbid burnt offerings, which we're going to go into in a minute, because that's what the book of Colossians chapter 2 and verse 16 is talking about. It's not talking about whatever you want to eat. It's specifically talking about offerings and sacrifices. So there are times in our history where our enemies, why was it a thing for them to forbid burnt offerings? Number one is, it's real simple. There was a necessity out of the law that we had to make those burnt offerings. Otherwise, we weren't in full compliance with the law. We would be breaking the law or not fulfilling certain aspects of the law if we did not offer up those burnt offerings. So if the heathen said, we're going to forbid you from giving those burnt offerings. Now we probably buck against the system if they told us we couldn't, offer up certain burnt offerings, right? Because we was talking about barbecue. That's what you call a barbecue now. They gave it the name barbecue. So, Israelites, I try to tell Israelites that they can no longer barbecue. Everybody a rebel. Everybody be Colin Kaepernicking, right? So they said, all right, we're going to get smart. We're going to let them do their barbecue and they burnt sacrifices, but we just going to get them to sacrifice swine and abominable things, them pork links, so on and so forth, right? Pork ribs, baby backs. Go ahead.
And forbid burnt offerings and sacrifices and drink offerings in the temple, and that they should profane the Sabbath and festival days.
So they were also profaning the Sabbaths and the festival days by not giving these offerings, whether they were animal sacrifices, what we call maybe a barbecue or grilling, or also there were other types of sacrifices, which we'll get in a second, and offerings that we made, where we were baking certain cakes and things of that nature. They forbid our people to do any of that. Go ahead.
And pollute the sanctuary and holy people.
So that caused us as a people to be polluted. Go ahead.
Set up altars and groves and chapels of idols. And sacrifice swine's flesh.
Sacrifice swine's flesh. Now, in this day and age, it's normal. Any Labor's Day, any July 4th, or any just random day, you can smell our people, barbecuing. And chances are, what kind of meat do you think that they're barbecuing? Pork, swine's flesh. It ain't even a foreign thing to them now. But what you're going to see in a second, our forefathers were remiss to do such a thing. You know, it was understood how abominable that was. Said sacrifice swine's flesh. That was like, ugh, are you serious? That's nasty. Go ahead.
And unclean beasts.
And all types of other unclean beasts. Read.
That they should also leave their children uncircumcised.
Go ahead.
And make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanness and profanation.
Go ahead.
To the end that they might forget the law and change all the ordinance.
To the end that they might forget the law. They wanted us to forget. Because see, even when we read Colossians 2:16, our people have forgotten. They've forgotten the law. The laws of sacrifice, how we used to get down. So now when they read that, they don't look at it under the guise of sacrifice. They look at it like, man, I can eat what I want to eat. You ain't never been able to eat what you want to eat if that entails eating abominable things. It's never been okay. Go ahead.
And whosoever would not do according to the commandment of the king, he said, he shall die.
He gotta go. Gotta go. Robin Harris. Drop down to 62.
Howbeit, in Israel were fully resolved and confirmed in themselves not to eat any unclean thing.
Read that one more time.
Howbeit, many in Israel.
Hold on. Slow it down. Howbeit, meaning, hey, yeah, Israel was effing up. They was doing a whole lot of foul stuff. But back then, the one thing that they still was like, ooh, we kind of turn it up. We kind of doing the extras. We kind of out of bounds. But one thing we don't know about, go ahead, read.
Howbeit, many in Israel were fully resolved and confirmed in themselves not to eat any unclean thing.
Now that's heavy right there. It ain't nothing like that right now. Said our people, even though a lot of them was going off, the majority of them was still like the one thing that we can't do. I don't know about eating no pork. I ain't trying to defile myself. They understood that. They was like, that's the one thing I can't do. I might do this and I might do that, but I don't think I could defile myself with this pork. But our people have fallen so far from that. Go ahead.
Wherefore they chose rather to die.
Hold on, read that slowly.
Wherefore they chose rather to die.
This wasn't a few isolated incidents as some people would believe. Because you read the couple of situations in the Maccabees and you think it was just a couple of brave souls. The people, as a majority, they would rather die than to eat an abominable thing. But our people are so lax today. People throwing back scrimps, eating them on big old fat nasty lobster tails.
All puss.
The little buttery sauce look like pee-pee. Just nasty, man. Shrimp looking like big roaches. Nasty. Man, nasty. Eating abominable things. Our people was like, read that one more time, verse 63.
Wherefore they chose rather to die.
Go ahead.
That they might not be defiled with meats.
Wow. He said of all of the wicked things that they was doing, the one thing that they was like, the one thing we can't do, we can't eat that pork. Nah, I can't do that. Ooh. Sad is wicked. Homosexuality is wicked. But they was getting down on a homosexual tip tough back in Greece. Look back. Go to the Getty Museum. They was getting down with a lot of that. But as defiled as they were in other ways, the one thing that they understood, they was like, I ain't trying to eat that pork. I ain't trying to eat no abominable thing. Go ahead.
That they might not be defiled with meats, and that they might not profane the holy covenant. So then they died.
So a lot of our people died because of that. They said, man, we can't defile ourselves. All right. We got to get that same mentality back. Go from there. Jump Go to Daniel, chapter 1. Book of Daniel. Chapter 1, and let's read verse 1, then we're going to drop down to verse 5.
Daniel chapter 1, verse 1. In the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, came Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, unto Jerusalem, and besieged it.
So that's just to give you kind of like the background. This is what was going on. King of Babylon came unto Jerusalem and he besieged it. This is what they were going through. And, you know, they ended up going into slavery as a result of that. So you're talking about this guy, Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, which were their slave-given names. I forget their actual. Well, we'll read it in a second. Drop down to verse 5.
Verse 5. And the king appointed them a daily provision in the king's meat. Of the wine which he drank. So nourished them 3 years, that at the end thereof they might stand before the king.
So he was like, I'm going to feed them this meat. This that good meat. This meat I approve of. But the meat was foul. It wasn't like, you know, some lawful meat. It was some unlawful stuff. Just like Esau and them, they think, and they got you believing like, man, you put some scrimps on your plate, you big ballin'. Lobster and steak. Oh man, you balling. You got some you got some crab? Man, you doing it big. But let's see how they acted. Go ahead.
Verse 6. Now among these were of the children of Judah, Daniel, Hananiah, and Mishael, and Azariah.
Azariah, which these were their actual names. That last one, you know that's your name, right? With a yah on the end of it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Unto whom the prince of the eunuchs gave names. For he gave unto Daniel the name of Belteshazzar, and Hananiah, Shadrach, and to Mishael, Meshach, and to Azariah, Abednego.
Go ahead.
But Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with the portion of the king's meat.
So he said, look, you know what? I'll accept these names. It's all good. We're in captivity. You call me Belshazzar. You call us Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. That's what you want to call us. But he said just one thing. He said, I prefer not to eat the king's meat. I prefer not to eat this pulled pork sandwich. Can we work something out? Go ahead.
Nor with wine which he drank. Therefore he requested of the prince of the eunuch that he might not defile himself.
That he might not defile himself. So a lot of people make that excuse. Well, we in captivity. What you expect? Even in captivity, our forefathers was like, I'm not eating that. Somebody might say, man, oh, well, I was in the pen. I had to do what I had to do. And give me the pulse, as Daniel, as they called it. I'm not eating that pork. Give me a roll. I'll survive off of rolls and water. I'm not eating that swine. All right? That's how our forefathers roll. Go from there. Go to Acts chapter 10. Verse 1 and 2. Yeah. Yeah. Read that for me real quick. One of y'all got it? Yeah, Acts 10, verse 1 and 2.
Acts chapter 10, verses 1.
The water out. Go ahead.
There was a certain man in Caesarea, Cornelius, a centurion of the band called the Italian band, a devout man, and one that feared God with all his house, which gave much alms to the people, and prayed.
So this man named Cornelius, right? This is an Israelite. Drop down to verse 9.
Verse 9. On the morrow, as they went on their journey and drew nigh unto the city, Peter went up upon the house to pray about the 6th hour.
Go ahead.
And he became very hungry and would have eaten. But while they made ready, he fell into a trance and saw heaven opened and a certain vessel descending unto him, as it had been a great sheet knit at the 4 corners and let down to the earth, wherein were all manner of 4-footed beasts of the earth.
So he said all manner of 4-footed beasts on the earth. So this was Peter. He was getting ready to go and deal with Cornelius, but there was some things going on. I'm going to give you the background to it. Cornelius was an Israelite, you know, that was not of what they would call the circumcision. He was of the uncircumcision. He was of the estranged Israelite, still an Israelite by blood, but hadn't come up, you know, around Judea, coming to, you know, the feasts and things of that nature, you know, having atonements given on his behalf, you know, through the sons of Aaron. So he was coming back into the understanding of what he needed to do as an Israelite to receive salvation. So Peter was very, very skeptical, because it had gotten to a point that the Most High had given the northern kingdom a bill of divorce and all Israelites that were estranged, to the point where they considered themselves to be a totally different people. So they was like, we don't deal with them. So Peter was conflicted. All right. So the Most High is dealing with Peter through a vision. All right. So go ahead. And in this vision, he showed him all of these 4-footed beasts. And watch what he says. Go ahead.
And wild beasts and creeping things and fowls of the air. And there came a voice to him, rise, Peter, kill and eat.
Said, rise, Peter, kill and eat. Go ahead and eat. Eat all of them 4-footed beasts that ain't necessarily lawful to eat. Let's see how Peter reacted. Go ahead.
Verse 14, but Peter said, not so, Lord, for I have never eaten anything that is common or unclean.
So he even told the Most High, he said, look, Most High, ooh, if you telling me to do what I think you telling me, I can't do that. Not so. I ain't never ate nothing unclean. That was how people were rolling. Not even just in the Old Testament, but also in the New Testament. After Yahushua had already come and given his life and ascended back on high, they were still rolling the same way. They was like, man, I ain't never ate nothing unclean. I can't do that. So let's find out if he was actually talking about eating an abominable thing. Read.
And the voice spake unto him again the second time, what God hath cleansed, that call not thou common.
So it was a message. He said, what the Most High is cleansed, don't call it common. Drop down to verse 27 and 28.
Verse 27. And as he talked with him, he went in and found many that were come together.
Go ahead.
And he said unto them, ye know how that it is unlawful thing for a man that is a Jew to keep company or come into one of another nation.
You see that? That's exactly what it was talking about. It wasn't talking about really eating. When he went into that trance and saw that vision, he wasn't talking about actually eating something. It was something that correlated with what he was going through, which was dealing with what they considered to be unclean or uncommon people, which happened to be of his own people, the Israelites. But those of the Jews, those of Judea, the southern kingdom, were told, if they're not of you and they didn't grow up like you, you don't deal with them. You don't talk with them. It's unlawful to have any kind of conversations with them. We don't deal with them. So Peter was letting it be known to Cornelius right there. You know, man, I'm taking a big chance doing this, man. Like, I ain't even supposed to be talking to you. Go ahead.
But God hath showed me That I should not call any man.
Any what?
Any man.
Any sandwich.
Any man.
Any hot dog.
Any man.
Any type of meat.
Any man.
He said any man. It was speaking of people, of a man. Go ahead.
Common or unclean.
That's what it was talking about. So even Peter, he wasn't trying to eat nothing unclean. Nothing that was abominable. Go from there. Go to Ecclesiastes chapter 33. Ecclesiastes 33, 7 through 9. So scripture said, don't let them judge you in meats or of any holy days. Let's get these holy days. Go ahead.
Ecclesiastes chapter 33 and verse 7.
Yep.
Why doth one day excel another?
Why does one day excel another? Why is it that some days are special and other days are regular days? Because people say that every day is a holy. You're a liar. That's not what the word says. That's broken logic. Every day is a special day. That's like me saying, every person is special. I can be with any person I want. They all people. If I want to go and sleep with this one tonight and that one tomorrow, it don't matter. They all people, right? Do that make sense? That one happens to be his wife. That one, they're special in some type of way, right? The same thing with days. Even though you can't grab and caress a day, it's the same thing. There are certain days that are special and others that are just days where you get your grind on, you do whatever you need to do. So let's read.
When as all the light of every day in the year is of the sun.
He said all of the days look the same when you look outside. They all got the sun shining. What's the difference? Somebody might be going, well, what? I mean, you call this the Sabbath day, but it looks like any other day. Go ahead.
By the knowledge of the Lord.
By the who?
By the knowledge of the Lord.
By the knowledge of Israelites.
By the knowledge of the Lord.
By the knowledge of Latinos.
By the knowledge of the Lord.
By the knowledge of Chicanos.
By the knowledge of the Lord.
By the knowledge of niggas.
By the knowledge of the Lord.
By the knowledge of the Most High. That's what it's saying. Some things you don't understand. Well, I just don't. Well, it ain't for you to get maybe. Or maybe you need to humble yourself and go hard and maybe the Most High will reveal it to you. But understand that by the knowledge of the Heavenly Father, it's a reason why he said, this is a special day. Go ahead.
They were distinguished.
They were distinguished. They are not all the same. Go ahead.
And he altered seasons and feasts.
Same reason why he altered seasons and feasts. Every time of the year is not summer. Every time of the year is not winter. We need the variation of the seasons to bring forth the different things that we need to create the balance that's needed on this earth. You understand that? That's what makes sense. Every day can't be the same. Where's the balance? We're just monotonously doing the same thing over and over and over again. All right. But it's still on a cycle. He said, look, he said, what's so beautiful about it? I don't send you through your whole life guessing and trying to figure it out. He said, I'm going to give you a cycle, a groove that you can get into. I give you enough variety, but at the same time, I give you what you need to fall in sync with what I have for you. All right, go ahead.
Verse 9, some of them hath he made high days.
He says, some of those days I have made high days. Your 7-day Sabbath is a high day. It's an important day. It's different from the other days. Once that sun goes all the way down, you will now be in Sabbath, in Shabbat, rest, observing the memorial of the creation of the Heavenly Father. He said, that's important to me. Like your birthday is important to you. Or maybe the day that your loved one was born, or maybe even the day that your loved one passed away that you remember. Maybe the day of your anniversary when you got with somebody. He said those days are important to you. I got important days to me too. Why you gonna disrespect my day and say any day? Oh, well, you know. Because people like to make excuses. You want to make excuses for eating abominable things, and you want to make excuses for profaning holy days, and it's unacceptable. Was that all of that?
No.
Go ahead.
And hallowed them.
And he made them holy, set them apart. Go ahead.
And some of them hath he made ordinary days.
And some of them days he made them ordinary days. You need your ordinary days. Days when you can go hustle. Days when you can go and get what you need to get. Do your business. All right? Go from there. Go to the book of Exodus, chapter 31. Exodus 31:12. Let's start at 12.
Exodus chapter 31 and verse 12.
Yep.
And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak thou also unto the children of Israel, saying, Verily my Sabbaths ye shall keep.
He said, my Sabbaths ye shall keep. Go ahead.
For it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that ye may know that I am the Lord that does sanctify you.
He said, I'm the Lord that does sanctify you. I set you apart. I made you special. Read.
Ye shall keep the Sabbath, therefore, for it is holy unto you.
It might not be holy to these other nations. They might boo-boo on it and not care and give a doggone about it. But to you, you need to observe the Sabbath. It's special to our people. Go ahead.
Everyone that defileth it shall surely be put to death.
And he said, look, if you defile it, then I'm going to put you to death, man. He said, this is a sign between me and you, meaning what? When people see that we observe the Sabbath, that lets them know that because people say, oh, we serving. I went to a funeral today. I went to my auntie's funeral today. All right. And you hear the bootleg preachers preaching, right? Ah! And one thing that they always try to do, and you know, they know what I do, and they know what I'm about. They know, you know, what the folks, you know, my family that is in this truth, they know exactly what we're about. And, you know, you get the funny feelings and all of that type of stuff, right? So they say things like, oh, it's only one God, one baptism, you know, basically trying to group us all together like we serve the same. We don't serve the same God. I'm going to tell you one simple way to know the God that I serve. I keep the Sabbath. Bible says that's a sign. That takes me out of the group with the rest of them and put me in a different place. Oh, he a Sabbath keeper. They know when that sun goes officially down, I'm in Shabbat. We can hang and chill a little bit, right? But we ain't going and buying nothing. We ain't selling nothing. We ain't talking no business, and we ain't doing no work. And the moment I get a chance to, I'm going to get in these scripts. I'm going to do my due diligence as far as having that convocation. That's what we do. That's what sets us apart. Go ahead.
Verse 14.
You can drop down to get straight to it. 16.
Verse 16. Wherefore the children of Israel shall keep the Sabbath, to observe the Sabbath throughout their generations.
Go ahead.
For a perpetual covenant.
For a what?
For a perpetual covenant.
I hope you know what the word perpetual means. Forever, ever, ever, and ever, ever. That covenant ain't gonna quit. Say it's still gonna. It's even when we in the kingdom, we still gonna be keeping Sabbaths, straight up Shabbat. So when somebody's, you can't judge me. The Bible say, go to the book of Colossians 2:16. He said, you can't judge me. You can't judge me in no holy day. You a lie. You misquoting that scripture to the fullest. You trying to make an excuse. You don't even know what that's talking about. That ain't talking about what you say it's talking about. Because the Bible said we got to keep the Sabbath. Matter of fact, go from there. Go to Hebrews chapter 4. Hebrews chapter 4, verse 4.
Hebrews chapter 4 and verse 4.
Yep.
For he spake in a certain place on the seventh day.
Look how specific he and meticulous he's going to be. Read it one more time.
For he spake in a certain place of the seventh day.
He spake in a certain place. Not any place, but a certain place. Go ahead.
On this wise.
Uh-huh.
And God did rest the seventh day from all his works.
On the what?
On the seventh day.
On any day.
The seventh day.
On the 6.5 day.
The seventh day.
On the first day. On Sunday.
The seventh day.
On the 7th day. You look on your calendar, you look, and that 7th spot, unless you got one of them old funky new looking calendars that they try to trick you and put Monday first. Nah, throw that away. First day of the week has always been Sunday, and it's still Sunday. That's the first slot. And that last slot, that 7th slot, is Saturday. If you speak Espanol, habla Espanol, huh? Poquito, sábado, Sabbath, rest, the rest. That's what that is. The 7th day. Go ahead.
And God did rest the 7th day from all his works.
Go ahead.
And in this place again, if they shall enter into my rest.
Uh-huh.
Seeing therefore it remaineth that some must enter therein.
Hold on. It remaineth. Ain't nothing changed. It's still the same. It remains the same. We still gotta enter into that rest. Go ahead.
And they to whom it was first preached entered not in because of unbelief.
Because some of our people, which it was first preached to, whether they remember it or not, it was preached to our forefathers. It was passed down throughout the generations that we're supposed to keep the Sabbath. Now, all of a sudden, our people don't want to believe in the Sabbath. Well, I don't believe in that. I believe the laws are done away with. You idiot. No, knock it off. You say you believe in the Bible? You believe in fat men, jolly men. There's really pedophiles in disguise that sit your children on their laps. You believe in a country that tells you that pedophilia is what the bastards say. Put it in words for me. Now they saying pedophilia is help me out. You know, yeah, all this legal action about making it to where it's like homosexuality, like it's just, oh, you're born with that preference. You dog, you liar, you piece of scum. Everybody that buys that, man, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. And I'm saying it. Oh, I can't believe I'm saying it. And it was segued, you know, through the whole homosexual movement. Shame on y'all talking about being a homosexual is like being black and Latino. Shame on you for that. It's like, man, ever since I was little, man, I just wanted to kill people. It's just in me. I shouldn't be judged for that. If I kill a couple of people, they'd be like, heck no. I mean, if I was white, maybe they'd let me get away with it. If I was an Edomite. But because I look like who I look like, nah, I ain't going for it. You know, but they make excuses for all their wickedness. Nah, negative. Go ahead.
Again, he limiteth a certain day, saying in David, today, after so long a time, as it is said, today if you will hear his voice, harden not your hearts. He
said again, he limiteth a certain day, not any day. He limited, meaning it can't be these other things. We got to narrow it down and limit it to right here. And this certain day, this specific day right here, ain't nothing changed. Read.
For if Yahweh Shai had given them rest.
So if Yahweh Shai said, look, man, I'm going to go ahead and institute this Sunday. Hey, go ahead.
Then would he not afterward have spoken of it?
He would have for sure said, hey, y'all, hey, guess what, Todd? Hey, you know what I did though, right? Now you can Shabbat on the first day of the week. Be blessed. Did you get that memo?
Never came.
Did you get that memo? Did you get that? Did you get that memo? Did y'all get that memo over there? All right. You got that memo back there? I ain't got that memo. Negative. People all say, you know, because Paul, they was dealing with the business. You reaching. The day is the same. Ain't nothing changed. Read.
Verse 9. There remaineth therefore a rest to the people of God.
A rest to the people of God. It remains. The Sabbath day remains. So I don't know where they getting this from, talking about don't let nobody judge you with the holy. Man, knock it off. I hear other Hebrews talking out their neck, talking about, oh, man, if you keep this day and you keep that day, who am I to? Man, knock it off. Don't play that game with me. You want to talk like that? We ain't got nothing else to talk about. You go over there and be amongst yourself and whoever else will fall for that. You know what I'm saying? We might as well take it right back to the garden. 'Cause that's that foolishness. I ain't falling for it. I'm not falling. I don't want to be around when that levee breaks. Go from there. Go to the book of, back to Colossians. Two and 16.
Colossians chapter 2 and verse 16. Let no man therefore judge you in meat or in drink, or in respect of an holy day, or of the new moon, or of the Sabbath days.
So let's find out exactly what this is talking about. Go to the book of Ezekiel chapter 45. Ezekiel chapter 45. And 17. Find out what we're speaking of.
Ezekiel chapter 45 and verse 17.
Yep.
And it shall be the prince's part to give burnt offerings and meat offerings.
Hold on. It shall be the prince's part, meaning his job, his duty, to give burnt offerings and meat offerings. Read.
And drink offerings.
And drink offerings. Read.
In the feast.
In the feast.
And in the new moon.
And in the new moons.
And in the Sabbath.
Does that sound familiar to you guys? Talking about sacrifices, drink offerings, talking about feasts, which is the same as holy days, talking about new moons and Sabbaths. Do that sound familiar? Don't it sound like we're reading something that parallels what we read in Colossians chapter 2 and 16? Read it one more time for him from the top.
And it shall be the prince's part to give burnt offerings and meat offerings and drink offerings in the feast and in the new moons and in the Sabbaths and in all solemnities of the house of Israel.
Solemnities are all of the holy days, the special days of the Most High in Israel. Go ahead.
He shall prepare the sin offering and the meat offering.
Go ahead.
And the burnt offering.
Go ahead.
And the peace offering.
Go ahead.
To make reconciliation for the house of Israel.
Because that's the way things were set up. Some of these offerings have to be given as an atonement on behalf of the sins of the people. Otherwise, they could not get forgiveness of sins because that was set up. That was one of the reasons why Yahweh Shai had to give himself as a sacrifice, because he knew that we would not be able to fulfill the law because we don't know who's a Levite. Despite everybody saying, oh, I'm from Haiti, I'm a Levite, I'm of the tribe of nah, that's not scriptural. In the scriptures, it said they had to produce their pedigree. Can any of you guys in here, even though you know you're an Israelite, because your spirit bears witness, the scripture speaks about not giving heed to endless genealogy. We are a product of the transatlantic slave trade. We are a product of the conquistadors, right? With all of that, can any of you guys produce a pedigree that can show that you are an Israelite? No? It's not shocking. It's not shocking at all. But you would have to be able to do that and prove that you were of not only the tribe of Levi, but specifically of the sons of Aaron, in order to be able to give or offer up a burnt offering on behalf of each and every Israelite. We can't do it. It's impossible for us to do it right now because we've been scattered. It's called the diaspora, and we've been destroyed as a people. We are dry bones coming back. The Most High is finally breathing the breath of life back into us, and we're rising up, coming back alive. He said, look, I'm going to come and die for you and be that sacrifice, and so we can omit that part of the law. That way you got a chance to come back and have a chance of salvation and getting it right. Otherwise, not one of us would have that opportunity. You do realize that, right? So when he was talking in Colossians 2:16, this was post Yahweh Shai coming and giving his life. Scripture says, without going too deep into that, on your own time, make sure you go into that. He took the order of the priesthood back into his hands. Yahweh Shai became the high priest once again, after the order of Melchizedek, Malach Tazadok, king of righteousness, who he was manifested as prior to the priesthood of Aaron being set up. I hope I ain't going too deep. It was the law that you had to offer up these sacrifices, is what I'm telling you. That's why the reference is made in Colossians 2:16, let no man judge you. Because we're going to go into the specifics on exactly how things had to be done. Go from there. Go to the book of 1 Ezra chapter 5. It's actually, I might skip through some of it because it's a lot. 1 Ezra chapter 5, verse 46.
1 Ezra chapter 5 and verse 46.
Yep.
And so dwelt the priests and the Levites and the people in Jerusalem and in the country, the singers also, and the porters, and all Israel in their villages.
So it made mention to the priests and the Levites, right? Go ahead. We're going to read.
But when the 7th month was at hand, and when the children of Israel were every man in his own place, they came all together with one consent into the open place of the first gate, which is toward the east.
So 7th month, keep that in mind too, right? We got a couple of days that happened in the 7th month, right? Go ahead.
Then stood up Yahweh Shai, the son of Hosedek, and his brethren the priests, and Zerubbabel, the son of Salathiel, and his brethren, and made ready the altar of the God of Israel, to offer burnt sacrifices upon it.
To what?
To offer burnt sacrifices upon it.
Go ahead.
According as it is the expressly.
Hold on. According what?
According as it is expressly.
At what?
Expressly.
What does that word mean? Expressingly. Was it a need for that word? Expressingly. I'm going to expressingly tell you something, then it must be important. Expressingly. Let me get a definition for that. Somebody get it before me, it's okay. Phone tripping. Expressingly. We read over stuff. A lot of y'all thinking about that cold burger that you're going to eat when you get home.
Expressly. For the particular or specific purpose, specially.
What? Say that one more time.
For the particular or specific purpose.
Particular or specific purpose. That's all I need. Let's read it one more time. And it also says explicitly. Go ahead.
Verse 49. to offer burnt sacrifices upon it, according as it is expressly commanded in the book of Moses.
It ain't just commanded, but it's expressly commanded in the book of Moses. Go ahead.
The man of God.
The man of the Most High. Read.
And they were gathered unto them out of the other nations of the land. And they erected the altar upon his own place, because all the nations of the land were at enmity with them.
They was mad. They had hatred for our people. Go ahead.
And oppressed them. And they offered sacrifices according to the time. And burnt offerings to the Lord both morning and evening.
So hold on. And they offered sacrifices according to the time, because that's another thing. You're going to find out there are specifics. There are different times when certain offerings are to be offered even throughout the year. Not even that, but you're going to find out that there's certain times throughout the week that certain offerings were to be offered. It was the law. Go ahead.
And burnt offerings to the Lord both morning and evening.
Go ahead.
Also, they held the Feast of Tabernacles, that is commanded in the law.
Oh, doesn't that happen in the 7th month? Feast of Tabernacles, right? Said that they were actually observing that. Go ahead.
And offered sacrifices daily, as was meet.
As was meet, right? Because there were sacrifices during tabernacles that you had to give, had to offer up. Read.
And after that, the continual oblations. And the sacrifice of the Sabbath.
Whoa, hold on. The what?
And the sacrifice of the Sabbath.
The what?
The sacrifice of the Sabbath.
How many of y'all gonna offer up that sacrifice of the Sabbath? How many of y'all know what the sacrifice of the Sabbath is? What all it entails? What they talking about? Huh? Nope. That ain't even what it's talking about. You literally had certain things, both animal and also other things that you would make, different cakes and things of that nature, breads, that literally you would have to make sure that you had prepared for the Sabbath. Literally, according to the law. A lot of times we read the law and we just read the things that we know, and we read over that whole part where it talk about, and you should offer up, and thou shalt offer up an oxen of the such and such year on this, and do it with mingled, and we look over that like, that don't pertain to me. The luxury. Back then, you better know exactly what you got to offer up, and if you better figure out where you got to get it from if you ain't got it, or hook up with somebody else so that you can make sure you in compliance. There were sacrifices specifically on Sabbaths that had to be offered. How many of y'all knew that? Be honest. Raise your hand if you knew that. All praises. But most of us didn't. Go ahead.
And the sacrifice of the Sabbaths and of the new moon.
Oh, and of the new moons. A lot of times we might bring a couple of hors d'oeuvres. Every 3 new moons we'll have a big one. But you had to bring, man. We get all excited about the Passover, but man, we had to present some oxens and all kind of stuff all throughout the year. Like Todd, you got the ox this week. Monica, you got the 3 goats. Go ahead.
And of the new moons. And of all holy feasts.
And of all the holy feasts. Read.
And all they that had made any vow to God began to offer sacrifice to God from the first day of the 7th month, although the temple of the Lord was not yet built.
Although the temple of the Most High was not yet built, they began to offer those sacrifices. So let's go from there. Go to the book of Numbers, chapter 28. Numbers 28 and verse 9.
Numbers chapter 28 and verse 9. And on the Sabbath day.
So look, remember what we was just talking about. Some of y'all probably say, he probably exaggerating. On the Sabbath day, go ahead.
2 lambs of the
What?
first year. 2 lambs.
What?
2 lambs.
How much them lambs cost us this year for the Passover?
Like $300.
Huh?
Like $300
Woo.
per.
300. Big bank. 2 lambs, 2 whole ones though. Not the parts we like. You had to have that whole lamb. You got him? Yeah. Well, on this, it wasn't specified that it wasn't in the same way that you had to cook them for the Passover. But nevertheless, you had to have them lambs. Go ahead.
2 lambs of the first year without spot, and 2/10 deals of flour for a meat offering, mingled with oil, and the drink offering thereof.
And the drink offering thereof. So you have to have the lambs. You have to also have some type of a lot of times when they say the meat offering, we think meat. Meat is talking about different foods. So they would have different cakes, which we'll go into in a second, that you have to offer up. It's crazy because we be bringing cakes and stuff when we be like, and maybe some of the cakes that we bring are not the healthiest cakes or whatever, and they got, all the processed stuff. But literally, cakes was coming every week. You better bring that cake. That was the meat that they was talking about, which I'll show you in a minute. Go ahead.
This is the burnt offering of every Sabbath.
Of what?
This is the burnt offering of every Sabbath.
Nah, not every Sabbath. That can't be right. Not every single Sabbath. Read it one more time.
This is the burnt offering of every Sabbath.
Wow. That's what it was talking about. So I can't come and judge you like, hey, Monica, you ain't got them 2 lambs this week. You going to hell, right? You're going to get some lashes, Barack. You ain't got them cakes on deck. You ain't got the drink offering. You ain't got the Henny. And it gotta be the privilege. The Most High only you gonna get some lashes every Sabbath. Go ahead.
Beside the continual burnt offering and his drink offering. And in the beginnings of your months, you shall offer a burnt offering unto the Lord.
That's all I needed. That's all I needed. So just to show you, what it was. Now, as a matter of fact, go ahead, read on. The beginning of your months is talking about the new moons. Let's go ahead and drive it home. Some people might think it was just a Sabbath, but even your new moons. Go ahead.
And the beginnings of your months, ye shall offer a burnt offering unto the Lord.
Go ahead.
2 young bullocks.
2 young bullocks. A lot of us, we don't even know what a bullock is. Go ahead.
And 1 ram.
And 1 ram. So you got 2 bullocks and a ram. What's a ram? I'm gonna point somebody. Hey, look. Y'all start looking down. Look, the women look. Hey, look. Mike, boy, you in that Bible hard now, ain't you? You know what a ram is? What's a ram? Huh? That's a good answer. What kind of animal? Anybody now the sisters? Sister Danielle, what's a ram? What's a ram? All right. Barah, help her out. There you go. Nah. Not a male goat, but you close. A male what? A male lamb, a sheep. Yep, close though. But a ram is a male sheep. Yeah. I didn't know that for years, man. I was like, man, a ram? What's a ram? Like a ram is close to like a goat or something like man, that's a male sheep. What the ones that got them horns on them, yeah. But go ahead.
7 lambs of the first year without spot. And 3/10 deals of flour for a meat offering, mingle with oil for 1 bullock. And 2/10 deals of flour for a meat offering, mingle with oil for 1 ram.
Go ahead.
And a several 10th deal of flour mingled with oil for a meat offering unto 1 lamb, for a burnt offering of a sweet savor, a sacrifice made by fire unto the Lord.
And he said, for a burnt offering of a sweet savor, meaning he said that particular lamb, I just want the smell. You know, sometimes you just, that lamb smell good. The Most High said, just let me smell that. Go ahead.
And their drink offering shall be half an hin of wine unto a bullock.
Ooh, half a hin of wine. You don't be coming with no cups. you better come with the jug. Go ahead.
Unto a bullock, and the third part of an hin unto a ram, and the fourth part of a hin unto a lamb. This is the burnt offering of every month.
Of what?
Of every month.
Of some months.
Of every month.
Of every other month.
Every month.
Every month. Every new moon. Go ahead.
Throughout the months of the year.
Throughout every month of your year. That's what they was talking about. Let no man judge you. Not you can eat some pork. You can eat some pulled pork sandwiches. McDonald's got the McRib back. Mac tonight. Big chin fellow. Nah, we ain't talking about that. It ain't no. Go from there. Go to Leviticus chapter 1. I mean, I really could go thorough. I'm trying not to go too well. I got a lot that I could go into that we're not going to have the time to go into. But I'll tell you, Leviticus 1, verse 1 all the way to 17. You can read that, at your own leisure. Let's go. Let's start at 1 though.
Leviticus 1 and verse 1.
Yep.
And the Lord called unto Moses, and spake unto him out of the tabernacle of the congregation, saying,
Yep.
Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, If any man of you bring an offering unto the Lord, ye shall bring your offering of the cattle, even of the herd, and of the flock. If his offering be a burnt offering, a burnt sacrifice of the herd, let him offer a male without blemish.
Go ahead.
He shall offer it of his own voluntary will at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation before the Lord.
So what you going to find, read verse 4.
Verse 4, and he shall put his hand upon the head of the burnt offering. And it should be accepted for him to make atonement for him.
Man, it was specific instructions. You got to put your hand on the head of the animal. So you got to make sure you remember that. Most High be like, you didn't put your hand on his head. No, that ain't acceptable. You didn't follow instructions. A whole lot of us, we don't like to follow instructions when we cooking. We want to wing it. How many of y'all the type of cooks you don't never get the spoons out to get the proper measure? Like, you don't never do it. And then you call yourself spicing it up. Well, mine's going to be better. I'm going to make it more juicy. It's going to be more flavorful. You know what I'm saying? The Most High say, man, you better follow these instructions right. Drop down to verse 8.
Verse 8, and the priest.
Verse 6.
Verse 6, and he shall flay the burnt offering.
You got to flay it. That's like fillet. You can't just cook it. You can't just chop it up and you can't chunk it. You got to fillet it. Go ahead.
He shall flay the burnt offering and cut it into its pieces.
Go ahead.
And the sons of Aaron, the priests, shall put fire upon the altar and lay the wood in order upon the fire.
Go ahead.
And the priests, Aaron's sons, shall lay the parts, the head, and the fat in order upon the wood.
What? In what?
The head and the fat in order upon the
wood. In what?
In order.
In order. You can't be talking about I'm going to put the pinky toe before the head. He said, you better have it in order. There were specifics on how things had to be done. That's why I was like, don't let no, because our people here, we be quick to judge each other over some petty stuff. There, you had to make sure you was on point with your sacrifices. Even the Levites
they were the ones that would have to judge you in regards to your offering. They was like, all right, let me make sure you put your hand on it. Did you put your hand? Nah, put it on there. Hold on. You know that head got it first. All right, you cooked it. We got to cook it again. We got to put it on it. Man, you didn't cut them pieces up like, did you fillet it? It got to be done right. Drop down. Just like I said, when y'all get a chance, I ain't gonna be petty, man. But man, homie, it's detailed. Just read verse 17.
Verse 17.
Uh-huh.
And he shall cleave it with the wings thereof.
Nah, let me get verse 13 real quick.
Verse 13.
Nah. Verse 9, my bad.
Verse 9.
For real.
Verse 9. But his inwards and his legs shall he wash in water.
Uh-huh.
And the priest shall burn all on the altar.
So you can't just wash them, because some of y'all be like, I'm just gonna wash the whole thing. It's too difficult. He said the inwards and the legs. You better not wash his head, his back. Better watch what he said wash. Go ahead.
But his inwards and his legs shall he wash in water. And the priest shall burn all on the altar to be a burnt sacrifice.
Drop down to verse 17 now, of 16.
Verse 16. And he shall pluck away his crop with his feathers and cast it beside the altar on the east part.
On the west part?
On the east part.
On the south part?
On the east
You
part.
have to do it on the east part. You can't just sit it anywhere. Like, it was, man, he was real specific with what we had to do to offer up these offerings. And it's crazy because you see our people today. How many Israelites do you know that just don't follow basic instructions? A lot of us, both men and women, we be like, I'm married to one. Because we've gotten so far from the way we were raised and had to do things. This made us a better people. It's easier to obey when you already were raised with that. But when you raised to be, just a homie and a nigga and the D-boy and whatever you want to be, it's like, nigga, he better take this. He better be happy I'm doing this much. That's the type of mentality a lot of us have. Also write down Leviticus 2:1-16. I just wanted to show you what I said, that all the meat offerings aren't necessarily meat as we know it. Go to verse chapter 2, verse 1. And man, when you get into it, man, Most High was like, man, everything you offer, you better put some salt on it. You better not give me nothing bland. We was doing a whole lot of frying. We was frying a whole lot of bird. That's why we love fried chicken. We was a whole bunch of cakes. That's why we love cornbread and tortillas. Man, and cakes. They was in the oven baking them. Man, like, a lot of the stuff that we love, it's just, a lot of people say, man, that stuff that we're eating is so bad for you, the Israelite diet. But it's how it was prepared. The way it's prepared today and the stuff that they put in there, they're purposely sabotaging. Because you're going to eat what's in your DNA to eat. We be trying to get out of what's in our DNA, but it's in your DNA to eat certain things straight up. That's why the majority of us cleave to certain foods. But the problem is how those foods are being cooked and processed, so on and so forth, and the sources. But just read verse 1 real quick.
Verse 1. And when any will offer a meat offering unto the Lord, his offering shall be of fine flour, and he shall pour oil upon it, and put frankincense thereon. So
this meat offering was of fine flour. And when you read down, it'll show you it wasn't talking about meat as we call meat today, but it was just talking about these meat offerings were of like breads, cakes, so on and so forth. Go from there. Go back to Colossians chapter 2, verse 16. Y'all with me? Learning something? Y'all didn't say nothing. I'm going to ask some questions. Y'all learning something? All right. 2 and 16.
Colossians chapter 2 and verse 16.
Yep.
Let no man therefore judge you in meat, or in drink, or in respect of an holy day, or of the new moon, or of the Sabbath day.
Go ahead.
Which are a shadow of things to come. But the body is of Christ.
So now, when you put that together, what is it talking about? Which are a shadow of things to come. Go to Hebrews chapter 10 and verse 1. Which are a shadow of things to come.
Hebrews chapter 10 and verse 1. For the law, having a shadow of good things to come.
Hold on, it's saying the same thing. The what?
Having a shadow of good things to come.
So this particular law, right? Having a shadow of good things to come. Go ahead.
And not the very image of the thing.
But it does not have the very image of the thing. What is it talking about? It does not have the very thing that you need that's of necessity. But it is a shadow, meaning it is a image, a likeness of what it's actually preparing you for. All right, go ahead.
Can never with those sacrifices.
Can what?
Can never.
Can never. We're going to spell that never, N-E-V-E. No, N-E-V-A-H. Never. Can what?
Can never.
One more time.
Can never.
Go ahead.
With those sacrifices.
With those sacrifices. With those sacrifices. That's what we was talking about in Colossians 2 and 16. Sacrifices. We ain't talking about you being able to eat what you want to eat and observe the Most High when you want to observe them and not feel bad about not keeping the Sabbath. No, we're talking specifically about the ordinances pertaining to sacrifice. Go ahead.
Can never with those sacrifices, which they offered year by year continually.
Ain't that what we read? Didn't it say they offered them year by year continually? Go ahead.
Make the comers thereunto perfect.
Make the comers thereunto perfect. Couldn't make them perfect. Couldn't make them complete. Couldn't make them righteous. I wonder why. Let's go from there. Go to the book of Psalm 51. Book of Psalm chapter 51. And let's read verse 1 through 3. And then we're going to drop down.
Psalm chapter 51, verse 1. Have mercy upon me, O God, according to thy loving kindness, according unto the multitude of thy tender mercies, blot out my transgressions.
So you see what he's asking, right? Go ahead.
Wash me thoroughly from mine iniquity, and cleanse me from my sin.
Go ahead.
For I acknowledge my transgression.
He said, I acknowledge my transgression. Go ahead.
And my sin is ever before me.
All right, drop down to verse 14.
Verse 14. Deliver me from blood guiltiness.
What is blood guiltiness? Deliver me from blood guiltiness. If you look up the definition of blood guiltiness, for the sake of time, I'll tell you what it is. It's when you're guilty of the shedding of blood, whether it be murder or it be of sacrifice. Read it one more time.
Deliver me from blood guiltiness.
He said, deliver me from feeling guilty about the blood that I have to shed, about the sacrifices that I have to make, things that I got to kill because I sinned, because I transgress. Go ahead.
O God, thou God of my salvation. And my tongue shall sing aloud of thy righteousness.
He said, and I'm going to be happy about that. I don't want to be in a space where I got to kill a sacrifice on behalf of making an atonement for my sins. He said, I just want to do the right thing. Go ahead.
O Lord, open thou my lips, and my mouth shall show forth thy praise.
He said, because that's what's going to honor you. My mouth, read.
For thou desirest not sacrifice.
So he knew this even before the sacrificial law was suspended when Yahushua came back. He knew this way back then. David knew. He said, I know what it is. He said, I know how it's set up, and by the law we have to do this. But he says, guess what? I know that thou desirest not sacrifice. Go ahead.
Else would I give it.
He said, or else I give it all day, because I know that's what you want. He said, but I know that that's not the thing that you desire. Go ahead.
Thou delightest not in burnt offering.
You don't delight in burnt offering. Read.
The sacrifices of God.
But these are the sacrifices that you love. Read.
Or a broken spirit.
Or a broken spirit. When you really feel remorseful for your actions. When you're so broken down and you want to be built up in righteousness. He said, that's what you love. That's what you desire. Read.
A broken and a contrite heart.
Go ahead. He said, a broken and a contrite heart. Read.
Oh God, thou wilt not despise.
He said, you won't despise that. Go from there. Go to the book of Micah, chapter 6 and verse 6. Six to 8.
Micah chapter 6 and verse 6. Wherewith shall I come before the Lord, and hide myself before the high God?
And bow myself before the high God. Read.
Shall I come before him with burnt offerings, with calves of a year old?
He says, so is this the thing that I should bring to the Heavenly Father? Go ahead.
Will the Lord be pleased with thousands of rams?
Go ahead.
Or with 10,000s of rivers of oil?
He said 10,000s of rivers of oil. 10,000s of rams. That's a whole lot of sacrifice. That's a lot of oil. Because you have to press the olives. You have to press the different things in order to get the oils. It's a lot of work. And a lot of things that have to be sacrificed. Go ahead.
Shall I give my firstborn for my transgression?
He said, should I give my firstborn for my transgression just like in Egypt? Go ahead.
The fruit of my body for the sin of my soul?
Go ahead.
He have showed thee, O man, what is good. And what doth the Lord require of thee?
Go ahead.
But to do justly.
He said, I just require you to do the right thing. Do the just thing. Be just. Go ahead.
And to love mercy.
And love mercy. Have mercy upon your people. You know, our people are so unmerciful to their own people. We so cold-hearted when it come down to us. Our people they want to save Esau. They get mad when you talk about banging on Esau, and it ain't nothing but a song. We ain't even banging on him yet. They feel some type of way when you banging on Esau. They want to save Esau, but cut a nigga in a minute. Cut a Mexican in a minute. Man, get so mad when a white person do something to us, man, we be so quick to forgive them. But let a Hispanic or a black cut us off in traffic. Let a black or Hispanic do us wrong at the ice cream truck and give us something old. we be so hot. We so unforgiving unmerciful when it comes to our people. Go ahead.
And to walk humbly with thy God.
And to what?
And to walk humbly with thy God.
He said, I just want you to walk humbly with me. Sometimes we get to walk with the Heavenly Father and we start feeling ourselves and our chests get puffed up. We think we're a super Hebrew. He said, man, just look. He said, be humble. Be examples unto my people. He said, that's all I'm asking. He said, I ain't tripping off of the thousands of rams and all of this, because sometimes we feel like we got to bring this, we got to bring that. You ain't doing nothing if you ain't doing this and doing that. He said, look, just take it one day at a time. Just be just. Just be righteous. Just be merciful to my people. Go from there. Go to the book of Hosea, chapter 6. Hosea chapter 6, verse 6 and 7.
Hosea chapter 6 and verse 6.
Yep.
For I desired mercy and not sacrifice.
He said, what he say?
For I desired mercy and not sacrifice.
He said, I desire mercy and not sacrifice. Mercy. Go ahead.
And the knowledge of God more than burnt offerings.
And the knowledge of God more than burnt offerings. He said, look, and it's crazy because look how many seats that's empty up in here. This is not usually what it is on a Friday. He said, I desire you to come up in here and get this knowledge more than anything. He said, more than any burnt sacrifice you can give to me that you think this is going to make me happy. He said, I desire for you to have a knowledge of me, knowledge of these scriptures, knowledge of your forefathers, knowledge of salvation. Seek ye first the kingdom of God. That's what I want you to focus on. He said, that is what makes me happy. Go ahead.
But they, like men, have transgressed the covenant. There have they dealt treacherously against me.
But our people, we mess that up. We mess it up. We make life more complicated because we want to be niggas. And we want to be, what would be the equivalent to niggas for my Latinos and my Hispanics. We want to be borrachos and ways and, you know what I'm saying, essays and, you know, we want to be coons and, you know, comedians. Like, so I just want you to be righteous. He said, I'll add everything else if you just focus on that. That's what makes me happy. Go from there. Go to the book of Psalms 51. I think I already got that. Don't trip. X that. Proverbs 21 and 3. Proverbs chapter 21 and verse 3.
Proverbs chapter 21 and verse 3.
Yep.
To do justice and judgment is more acceptable to the Lord than sacrifice.
It's plain and simple. To do justice and judgment is more acceptable unto the Most High than sacrifice. Go from there. Go to Hebrews chapter 9. Hebrews chapter 9, verse 9. Yep.
Hebrews chapter 9 and verse 9.
Yep.
Which was a figure for the time then present.
What was a figure for the time then present, meaning kind of similar to that whole shadow thing. Not the actual thing, but a shadow, a figure of it. Go ahead.
In which were offered both gifts and sacrifices.
He said both gifts and sacrifices. That was only something that was meant as a figure. Go ahead.
That could not make him that did the service perfect.
Same thing that he said over in the other part of Hebrews. It couldn't make, you know what I'm saying? It couldn't make those that offered it perfect. Go ahead.
As pertaining to the conscience.
As pertaining to the conscience, meaning what? Said you could sacrifice that animal and go and do the same thing and just say, I'm gonna offer up some more sacrifices, some more animals. I got a couple of bullocks waiting. I'm gonna go ahead and do this sin real quick, and then I got these bullocks on deck. I'm gonna go to the club, do it big, take something home, smash, and then I'm gonna get this bullock in the morning. Because that's what people do in the bootleg church. Man, they go get baptized 6-7 times. Man, this was a crazy year, homie. I need to be baptized again. My body count went up. Man, I mean, there's so many people that do all kind of wickedness. I remember when I was at, you know, I didn't, you know what? I'm not going to mitigate what I did. Like I didn't do anything bad. So that's not what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to say like, oh, I wasn't as bad as the rest of them. I'm not going to do that. But I figured out at an earlier age that the church was some BS. And I couldn't fully put my finger on it, but I distanced myself because of that. But the times when I was a young man and I was still, messing with the church a little bit here and there, we had our shenanigans going on them Saturday nights. Man, I remember being in the church, coming to church, and I'm faded. I got so toe up the next day. My mama was an usher. I remember, man, I'm knocked out. I remember one time I was so toe up, I made it to the church and fell asleep in the parking lot. I was lit. And then when they got me up in the church, man, I was, you see how brothers that be struggling up in here? Oh, man. And my mama wasn't no joke, man. My mama, I was grown. And I'm sitting up there struggling in church. And she hit the back, wake up. But we do all kind of foolishness on a Saturday night. Big time foolishness. You know how many people still doing that foolishness? They turning up tomorrow night and gonna be in church on Sunday trying to give an offering and crying and stuff. You know how many times I seen people catch the Holy Ghost after they didn't, man. People be doing all kind of wickedness. That's what they was doing. Oh, well, I got to sacrifice. I'm going to offer up the sacrifice. I'm going to offer up a broken spirit and a contrite heart. I feel so bad. I ain't going to never do it again. And then you do it again the next week. Go ahead.
Verse 9, which was a figure for the time then present, in which were offered both gifts and sacrifices, that could not make him that did the service perfect, as pertaining to the conscience, which stood only in meats and drinks, and divers washings, and carnal ordinances, imposed on them into the time of reformation.
Into the time of reformation, because when Christ came back, that was the time of reformation. It was going to be a reforming of the covenant. A new covenant was coming. There was no longer a need for those things. So he's telling you, which stood only in meats and drinks, and diverse washings and carnal ordinances, all those things pertaining to what we call the sacrificial law. People have, the law's done away with, and they quote you every scripture that they can find out of Galatians. Nigga, please. Go read. Get the backstory on the history. You ain't bringing me nothing new. The law that he's talking about is the law of sacrifice, everything that pertains to that. Ain't no other laws been done away with, bruh. We still got to keep these laws. You still can't eat pork. You still got to keep the Sabbath. Go ahead.
But Christ, being coming high priest of good things.
See, that's the thing that you got to understand. A lot of folks talking about, how I love Jesus. They, all of that, and don't know nothing about, what position does Christ hold right now? What you mean? The only thing they probably know, he the king, which he hasn't taken his rightful place as king yet. When he come back the second time, he coming back to take that. But the first time that he came back, what did he take back unto himself? They don't even know that he's the high priest. Straight up. You got church people that swear up and down they love Jesus and don't know nothing about him now being the high priest. And then you got Israelites that's calling themselves high priests. Yahweh is now officially our high priest, literally. The sacrifices come through him. He said, bring it all through me. That's why he was telling you. People didn't get it when he said, man, you can't come through no other door. You got to come through me. That's what he was talking about. If you was an Israelite, that was one of the things. You could not get forgiveness of sins if you did not go through the Levites, through the sons of Aaron, and have them officially send up oblations on your behalf, atonements on your behalf. Study to show thyself approved. That's what he's talking about. Read.
But Christ, being coming high priest of good things to come.
Those were the good things to come, him becoming the high priest. Us no longer having to sacrifice on such a carnal level. Go ahead.
By a greater and more perfect tabernacle.
A greater and more perfect tabernacle. Read.
Not made with hands. That is to say, not of this building.
Read on.
Neither by the blood of goats and calves.
It wasn't by the blood and goats and calves, man. That was a shadow. That was a figure. That thing never really helped us. But it was preparing us. It was showing us. Go ahead.
But by his own blood, he entered in once into the holy place, having obtained eternal redemption for us. For if the blood of bulls and of goats and the ashes of an heifer, sprinkling the unclean, sanctified to the purifying of the flesh, how much more shall the blood of Christ, who through the eternal Spirit offered himself without spot to God, purge your conscience from dead works to serve the living God?
He said, man, if you understand all of this stuff, like brothers got a chance to see, man. Todd, both of us experienced going and getting the lamb. And what kind of process was that?
Man, you see the passion of the lamb. Oh, yeah, you was there.
You was there? So with all of that, he said, man, he said, you had to see me. He said, I lived a life spot-free. Yahweh Shai said, man, I could have chose to go to the club. I could have chose to hit that chick off. I could have chose to marry this one and that one. I could have been like my forefather David and had many wives. He said, I could have been like my forefather Solomon and had 1,000 of them. He said, but I knew that wasn't what I was here for. He said, I'm not here for that. He said, and I lived the spotless life only to be given as a sacrifice. Man, when you see the look in that sheep's eyes when he knew that he was the one. First of all, as soon as the sheep seen every animal, okay, we went in there. You got the pens. We had 2 pens. To our left, it was the bulls and the cows. To the right, it was both goats and sheep. As they saw us, and this is a slaughterhouse, as they saw us walking up, we're in an aisle that leads to both. So they understand these animals are not dumb. They understand that they're coming for someone. So everyone was at attention. It's crazy because our people, we just, we sheep for the slaughter and we just dumb. We ain't paying no attention. All of them was at attention, like, oh, everybody stopped and was watching, like, all right, which pen they coming in? Big old bulls. Bulls way bigger than us, and they scared. They backing up. Hold on. What they about to do? They coming in here? Goats, it's a gang of them. Goats up in there, they all looking. Sheep up in there, they all looking. Sheep and the goats separated, even though they in the same pen. When they start seeing who we wanted, and we went and we sent the man into that pen, oh man, them cows and them bulls was relieved. But them sheeps and them goats, they was like, oh man, everybody got to, they was moving.
Raised all their blood pressure.
They was moving. They was like, man, maybe if I move, like, you know how y'all do when y'all hold your head down, like, I hope you don't call me. They was trying to duck in, like, don't choose me. And when we finally said, all right, he the one, he was like, man. It like, if he could talk, I heard his voice say, man, why me? Me? Why I gotta be my day? And it looked like the rest of them was like, man, it's your day, man. And they even tried to help him. It's crazy. The goats that wasn't helping the sheep, though. The goats, they was like, all right, that's on y'all. That's on y'all. Every goat. Am I lying? Am I lying out? The goats was like, well, all right, that's on y'all. And then all of the sheep piled in with that sheep. They was like, all right, well, it's our last attempt. We're going to try to help you out. And then the man, he was just, get out of here. And then they was like, all right, we did what we could. And then he was over in the corner, and here we are sitting up there antagonizing him, and we didn't realize we was antagonizing him. And he looking at us, we trying to be friends with him, pet him, and he looking like, man, I don't need your friendship. Like, imagine, man, imagine that. Yahweh Shai said, man, I knew I was about to give my life. He said, you imagine how I felt. He said, man, he had his moment. He said, but nevertheless, woo, let thy will be done. If I got to do this, and I got to do this. The Father was like, I don't like it, but you got to do it. That's what he gave. Go ahead.
Verse 12.
You can drop down to verse 15.
Verse 15.
Yep.
And for this cause, he is the mediator of the New Testament. That by means of death, for the redemption of the transgressions that were under the first testament, they which are called might receive the promise of eternal inheritance. Because
the mediator of the Old Testament literally means, testament and covenant is synonymous. It means the same thing. I don't know if you guys knew that. So when you read the Old Testament, you're reading the Old Covenant. The mediators of the Old Covenant were the Levitical priesthood, the sons of Aaron in particular. All right? They were the mediators. Now, the mediator of the New Covenant is Yahweh Shai. That's why he was like, don't let anybody, because everything was set up for you to make sure people were going to judge you, to make sure you were getting it right. He said, look, you ain't even got to do it the same way. This is all I require of you. I made it easier for you. All praise to the Most High for that. Imagine how much harder it would be to get people in this truth if we had to still keep the law of sacrifice to a T. We don't even check our oil like we're supposed to check our oil. We don't check our tire pressure. We don't warm up our cars long enough. Let alone do all the particulars with this. Oh man, a whole lot of us would be gone. We would have been stoned. He's gone. Mosh ain't making it to next Sabbath. Man, all praise to the Most High, because I know I got issues with that. I'm trying to get better. But he said, man, I'm going to make it easy for you. Go from there. Go to, stay in Hebrews. Go to 10 real quick. I know I ain't going to, matter of fact, I'm gonna go ahead and, I'm going to list a couple of them for you. You can read Hebrews 10, 1 through 5. And it goes into the fact that says it is impossible, you know, that the animal sacrifice would take away sins. Psalms 40, 6 through 8. And it goes into the fact that sacrifice and offering the Most High, he never desired that. St. John chapter 6 and verse 51. And it shows, it goes further into the fact that Yahweh Shai was the sacrifice. Hebrews chapter 10 verse 6. You know, in burnt offerings and sacrifices for sin, the Most High had no pleasure. You go to 1 Samuel 15 and 22, and it tells you to obey is better than sacrifice. Let's get Ecclesiastes 35 and 1 real quick.
Ecclesiastes chapter 35 and verse 1.
Yep.
He that keepeth the law bringeth offerings enough.
Keep these laws and you bring an offering enough. All praise to the Most High for that. He said, look, man, you can keep your goats and your rams. He said, just keep these commandments, man. Go ahead.
He that taketh heed to the commandment offereth a peace offering.
You offering a peace offering. He said, I'd rather a peace offering than a sin offering all day long. I don't want a sin offering because that means you sin. It means you transgress. Write down Hebrews chapter 10, verse 7 through 10. Write down the book of Colossians. As a matter of fact, let's go there. Last one. Colossians chapter 2. Verse 8.
Colossians chapter 2 and verse 8.
Yep.
Beware, lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit.
Man, because a whole lot of people, that's all this is. When you go into verse 16, this is philosophy. People want to philosophize and they want to give their own vain, deceitful doctrines and put it out there so that you can sin, or you can stop pressing them about doing the things that they're doing and breaking the Most High's commandments. Go ahead.
After the tradition of men, after the rudiments of the world, and not after Christ.
Because they following this world, they following a bootleg, pork chop eating pastors, following Big Mama and them. Go ahead.
For in him dwelleth all the fullness of the Godhead bodily.
Go ahead.
For you are complete in him, which is the head of all principality and power.
Because that's the thing. Sometimes we put more emphasis on our jobs and supervisors, managers, bosses, and stuff. Bible says he's above all of that, and we got to remember that. Sometimes we be like, well, my job, I just don't know, and ooh, I've been working for 4 years, and they still won't give me the Sabbath. Well, then F them then. Tell them I got to go. Most High will provide. Sometimes you just got to put your foot down. Said Yahweh Shai is above them. Go ahead.
In whom also you are circumcised with the circumcision made without hands, in putting off the body of the sins of the flesh by the circumcision of Christ.
He said the real circumcision. Both men and women get this circumcision. He said the circumcision of your spirit. All right? He said, I'm making you right by keeping these commandments. Read.
Buried with him in baptism.
He said the real baptism, not the going back in water, but the real one. Immersing yourself in the understanding of these laws, this word. Go ahead.
Wherein also ye are risen with him through the faith of the operation of God, who hath raised him from the dead.
Go ahead.
And you, being dead in your sins and the uncircumcision of your flesh, hath quickened together with him, having forgiven you all trespasses. Because
another thing, when you do that whole baptism thing, which we no longer have to do, and that was a shadow of things as well, that was done because it was an ordinance from the priesthood, but then even the going back and coming back up, it was like letting that dead man die and be immersed and then bringing him back up and rising back up. It was also symbolic in that way too, not just the aspect of being cleansed. But go ahead.
Blotting out the handwriting of ordinances.
Now that handwriting of ordinances, write down Numbers chapter 19, verses 1 and 2. The ordinance of the law pertain to the sacrificing of animals, and that'll show you that. So go ahead.
Blotting out the handwriting of ordinances that was against us.
That was against us, meaning what? We weren't going to be able to get it right as a nation of people unless that was rectified, that was changed. That's what Yahweh Shai came back to do. Otherwise, you would not be able to get salvation today because you would not have the means to do so. Literally, because of the sacrificial aspect of the law. Go ahead.
Which was contrary to us, and took it out of the way, nailing it to the cross.
And it makes perfect sense now. He said that was the nailing of the cross. That was the sacrifice. Look, don't worry about that no more. Get your mind right. Bring forth fruits worthy of repentance. Bring me a broken spirit and a contrite heart, and I'll work with you. Go ahead.
And having spoiled principalities and powers, he made a show of them openly, triumphing over them in it.
And that's exactly what Christ did when he was here. Did he not? So now let's read the next verse.
Let no man therefore judge you in meat offerings, or in drink, or in respect of an holy day, or of the new moon, or of the Sabbath day.
Why? Because they were still pressing like, oh, y'all ain't going to bring them sacrifices? Oh, y'all think y'all just gonna come up in here and not bring them sacrifices? Oh, no, y'all wicked. Most High gonna put y'all to death. It's like, no, you don't get it. That's why Yahweh Shai did what he did. We ain't got to do that. Let's focus on what we need to focus on, which is what? Get your act together. Keep these commandments. Stop showboating with the fancy fringes and big border of blue when you know you wicked. And behind the scenes, you got the money to sacrifice these animals, but your heart ain't right. He said, now we can get to what we need to get to, which is what? Just bring yourself. Go ahead.
Which are a shadow of things to come, but the body is of Christ.
Go ahead and read.
Let no man beguile you of your reward, in a voluntary humility and worshiping of angels, intruding into those things.
So let no man beguile you of your reward in a voluntary humility. We're supposed to be humble, right? Let no man beguile you of your reward in a voluntary humility and worshiping of angels. What is that talking about? Are we talking about the type of angels that fly around? Our people like to worship angels, meaning what? Messengers. Our people want to worship Martin Luther King. They want to worship, Malcolm and all of these different. Man, all praise to the Most High for the different men and women that have done things to further our nation, and especially those that have furthered this truth. But we're not to worship them. Go ahead.
Intruding into those things which ye have not seen, vainly puffed up by his fleshly mind.
Go ahead.
And not holding the head, from which all the body by joints and bands, having nourishment ministered, and knit together, increases with the increase of God.
Go ahead.
Wherefore, if ye be dead with Christ from the rudiments of the world, why, as though living in the world, are ye subject to ordinances?
So he begins to explain. He said, if you did through Christ, man, you shouldn't even be subject to that. And read down to verse 23, but that's pretty much it, man. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Says to the cross, what exactly does that mean? Because I know Christians always like
what you mean, like what did the cross actually look like, maybe? Are you talking about specifically when it said nailed to the cross? Let's read that part real quick. 14.
Verse 14, blotting out the handwriting of ordinances that was against us, which was contrary to us, and took it out of the way, nailing it to his cross.
Nailing it to his cross, meaning what? In other words, what he was saying, once he gave himself, once he was crucified, that cross was utilized to execute him. After that, that cross was no longer a factor. Everything that pertained to what was before Yahweh Shai giving his life, that pertained to that Old Testament, Old Covenant in terms of the sacrificial law, it no longer matters anymore. So when he said nail it to the cross, it's like an expression. Yeah, it's just an expression. It's a wrap. You can nail it to the cross, and when that cross is thrown out, who knows where that cross is? It's probably destroyed. That's destroyed along with it. It's no longer anything that we need to worry about. Yep. Any other questions? All right. Yes, sir. Man. All praise be to the Most High, man. It's good to have you here, brother, for real. What's your name? Edel? Man, pleasure, man. To Zion. Man, all praises. All right, well, with that, guess any announcements? I know we have family and friends. It's not just for the